Well, that's a great question. well, let's say that being a mom requires a lot of patience and communication skills to work on, and that also applies to your creative field. So, being a UX designer and a mom, that what correlates is communication, patience, and really trying to understand the other party's problem and to dig up the need that needs to be solved.
Welcome to Hiring Nowadays, a podcast about what makes and breaks successful hiring.
Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Hiring Nowadays podcast. I'm Jay, recruiter at Awana. We specialize discovering Latin talent for companies in US, Canada, and Europe. We have a very talented person today, Natali. She's a UI UX person from Ecuador. She has been more than 5 years in the field. So, welcome Natali. How are you?
Hi, Heido. It's really nice to be here. I'm really excited for this conversation that we're going to have today. Very grateful, and I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
Fantastic. Yeah. So one of the first questions that I want to ask to start this conversation will be, how was your experience with Awana?
Well, it has been great from the beginning. It was a very smooth process. If I remember how it went, I remember when I first got contacted from you, I really got excited. And if I'm not mistaken, you contacted me through LinkedIn. And from there on, we had a couple of conversations, and you helped me have a smooth process and a very easy one, I might add, to be hired by the company that I work today. So it was very great.
Wow, and that was great. I mean, having you in an interview and having you in the process was very easy for me to find you a job with Marky. So, can you share with us more about your background and journey in the design field, especially
Yeah.
your experience? Sorry, especially with your experience working in U.S. companies and Ecuadorian companies. I know also that you've been working with clients in Bolivia.
Yes. So, my experience started off. I graduated from a graphic and product design in UDLA, Quito, Ecuador. But my professional transition, let's call it, from a graphic designer to a UI UX designer came from a company that I used to work for. It's called Kruger Corporation. They had a lot of, let's say, teams of development that worked for many big companies here in Ecuador. But not only that, they also outsourced to clients in Bolivia and some of them in other countries in Latin. The one thing that I would say that from a graphic designing standpoint, I used to do a lot of sales pitch for this company until I sat beside and co-work and collaborated with a lot of developers to help them, build up these UI designs. And I was so fascinated by what I was learning from them that I decided to get my hands dirty and learn to not just do the sales pitch. Sales pitches are fun, but really building up a product with these developers. And I remember one coworker was very sweet, very patient with me in teaching what was UI and what was UX. And then on, he encouraged me to study. And up till today, I've been to several companies, worked with another company that outsourced for the United States. So some of them in New York, some of them in California, some of them in Colombia, if I'm not mistaken. And with that, that's where I've been able to be here today. It was a great experience and a journey so far.
Wow, so many clients from so many countries,
Yeah.
different cultures and everything. So that's good. I mean, so you started from nothing from zero, working in a different field, and then that's good that sometimes you have some people that help you. And now, I mean, you are a perfect UI UX designer with more than 5 years. I would say more than 5 years of experience in a really good company. So fantastic, that's good. So being a new man and a UX developer, how do you manage the demands of your creative role with the responsibilities of motherhood?
Well, that's a great question. well, let's say that being a mom requires a lot of patience and communication skills to work on, and that also applies to your creative field. So being a UX designer and a mom, that what correlates is communication, patience, and really trying to understand the other party's problem and to dig up the need that needs to be solved. So it's really funny if you put it in that perspective, because when you have a child or a toddler that way, that certain tantrums or irritations or sadness comes from a need that's really hard for them to communicate. And for clients, it's also the same way of they don't really understand the need behind the user to use their own product. So you really have to keep on that conversation, keep on talking, have the patience to continue that conversation until you get to that point of understanding the root of the problem. That's what I would say. That's one of the challenges. But I would say that's the best way had to explain.
And it's like so basically your clients are like a child, like a children. So like
I would
you have
never
to say,
say that. No, no, I wouldn't say they're like children. No, but I do see how different ways of communicating as a creative role is to find different ways to communicate. So with a toddler is one way to communicate, help them to calm their needs, their emotional needs, while with a client is reiterate your question to really get to that answer, to the specific answer you're wanting. So there are different ways of communicating, but it all comes to the same output.
right, great. So you have worked in a few countries and cultures. How has your international experience influenced your design approach?
Well, yes, actually, it has a great influence. So I would say that every client has different needs, different ways and processes, and different expectations, which in one of the cases, I will always try to iterate or tailor the way I do things, the way I design things, the way I hand off things, that makes it easier for them to get the big picture as well as to notice the small little details. And this could be in rearranging my meetings, how my design review meetings are set up in a way for them to have enough time to really deep dive into the designs. So for one client, for example, I do live design reviews. I have this whole conversation with them. I will show them the designs, what's the problem, the context behind it. But in other times, being remote, they don't have the time to be personally in a meeting. So I will do silent design reviews. So I will set up the stage in a way that they can do it on their own time and add comments or add their suggestions, and later we'll come back to it. So that would be one way, and deliverables in a way that benefits them the most to understand all of the nitpicky little details in a way that they could really see why I designed it the way I did and how am I communicating it in a linear process. So, that makes sense?
Yeah, that I do. I mean, so when you start working as a remote work, obviously clients, they don't have a lot of time because they have to have time to talk to other companies' clients. So basically for you, it's like you are processing all the job, all the work for them, and then when they have some time, maybe in the evening or a different time zone, they will just check it out your job, something like that, right?
Yeah, so that it's most of the time of rearranging the way I do things or my processes to the timeline, to their time zone. Sorry. Sometimes clients, like for example in Spain, it's like for them it's 5 o'clock over here is 7 or 8 in the morning. Could be inaccurate, but could be around that time. So of course I will have to do the silent design review. In other words, in other countries are very similar time frames, so we'll just have to adjust. So it's one of those things too, but also it's the client's profile too. Some of them are leaders and they're part of the leadership team, so they won't have enough time. So the time is very demanding for them. So I'll have to find a different way to communicate certain stages of the designs that I've created into a way that, hey, I've got this prep for you. Take the time to go through them and we'll set a different day to talk through them. So yeah, it's pretty much tailored to the client itself.
All right, and so far it works.
Yes, so far it has worked.
Fantastic, that's good. All right, so many Latin professionals share concerns about working abroad. How do you overcome your fears, particularly related to benefits and insurance, when you are
That's a good
working with
question.
USA companies and overseas?
Well, that's a great question. Um, Based on my experience that I had in the past, when my child was, I think, 8 months old, I had an offer to work for an American company. Um, and I was thrilled with most of the things that they're offering. However, you you are scared for what you will lose that you're so accustomed to by working at a job or an independent job, dependent job, sorry, here in Ecuador. So, for example, you get Elias, for example, which is the government medical insurance, and you get certain benefits from that. And when you have a child, you are scared of losing those things because of the unknown. You're not really 100% sure how this really works. So, looking back, I do feel like I regret not accepting the offer. However, thanks to the community of UX/UI and remote jobs, and also Awana, who educated me in a way that I've understood that I shouldn't be afraid of these, of stepping out of the country that I work for. And one of the things that I would say is that I had a very dear friend of mine and coworker in my past company who also was looking for an opportunity out of the country, but she was also scared of what about the benefits? What about the insurance? What about like the actual stability of it? Like, are these contracts stable enough to last a year or 2 years? And this is when I came in and I talked about it, right? Like, okay, the difference between having a dependent job obviously is that you have the help of doing your taxes from the company you work for here, but as a from a remote work in the States, of course you won't have that. However, you have options to hire someone to help you to do your taxes, or this other platform that I personally use and I've loved so far is CodeTap, who actually does your taxes on a yearly basis and monthly basis. And medical insurances, you have other options as well, private ones. You just have to look for one that tailor to your budget and your needs. And so there are ways to do it. And this is when we had this conversation, she felt a little bit more calm, a little bit better. And so she applied for a position at a job that I heard of, and she thought she wasn't, what's the word? Like she didn't meet the criteria for the job descriptions, but when she really put herself out there, she made it to the top 3 finalists for the job offer. She didn't get at the end, but it really helped her understand like she has opportunities out there. She has a way to work out for the United States and Canada and North America or even Europe. So I would say don't be scared of it. Learn if you want to do it in a way that research the actual fears you have, the insurance, payment, taxes. There's always a way to do it. So yeah, I would say that.
So in a way, you helped your friend, and as you say, she made to the top 3 in a
She was
difficult
very
company.
qualified.
Yeah, because I know what the company is talking about, and the process is kind of I won't say difficult, but it is a kind of long, so it's not very easy to be in the top 3. So fantastic. I mean, and also you help your friends in the way that you told her about how other ways to find a private insurance, to find an accountant, to pay your taxes and everything, and to find a better job, better salaries, better benefits, and 100% remote where you can be at work. Maybe your
Yes.
friend want to have children or something like that. So that is in a way is I would say 100% pro for her to find a job like that.
Oh, definitely. Well, she is a new mom as well, so that's one of the reasons why she wanted to find other opportunities to grow, and also a remote job that helps her stay with her kid at home, which is, I think, one of the benefits of remote job for moms.
That's really nice. So companies or overseas workers across borders often involves understanding and respecting different cultures. So how do you manage this cultural sensitivity winning your team, and how has this contributed to successful?
Well, I will say, to be honest, it's not easy, but it does take a lot of patience and a lot of understanding. Because, as a professional, you are used to speak a certain way in your own language, and how to socialize in your work environment is tailored to where you're at, right? And when you try to socialize with your new coworkers in a different language, sometimes it translates in a very awkward manner, or even sometimes it could be offensive if you're not really careful which words you choose. So I would say, and what worked for me at work is, I try to get to know them. I won't be too much of asking questions, but I do try to socialize and, hey, how are you doing? Ask their day to day, where they live in and how things are going over there, and try to understand their culture that way. One of the things that really made things more fun in my working space is to try to learn their language. So I work currently right now with Brazilians. And I love them. They are so funny. And of course, I try to, when I hear a word that similar to Spanish, I'll try, hey, does this mean this? Or does it mean differently? And sometimes I don't really understand what they're saying, so I try to repeat, and they will laugh at my really, really bad attempt at Portuguese. But it kind of alleviates and makes the whole co-working space a much more, well, not co-working space, the remote collaboration a lot more friendlier, a lot more alleviating, or let's say. So that's my approach. I always try to get to know them and learn from their perspective, their own culture. So that helps a lot, and you make great friends out of them. Yeah.
And are they doing similar thing like you, like maybe, I don't know, trying to learning Spanish or something like that, or
Oh,
different cultures?
yes.
I mean,
Yeah, some
they
of
are.
them scheduled a monthly meeting, or I think another one's a weekly meeting to learn Spanish. And other ones is to learn Portuguese. I put on an app or downloaded an app to learn Portuguese, but it will take some time. And I communicated that with them, that be patient with me on the Portuguese side, but they also learned the Spanish side of things. So that what makes it more genuine, that relationship with a coworker, I would say, in different cultures and languages.
That's great. All right, and in your experience, what advice would you give to other Latin designers who are navigating the challenges of remote work and considering opportunities with international companies?
Don't be afraid. First of all, don't be afraid to apply to a role in a company that's out of the country that looks like it's too much for you, or that you don't meet the expectations of the job descriptions. Pretty sure you're really good at it. And if you are scared of certain things, like I said before, do your research a little bit, get to know the company a little bit more, get to know about the culture of that company as well. Because once you feel that a company has a good culture, they are willing to answer your questions more comfortably of your worries, and they're more open about your professional growth in the company as well. Be honest as well. Be 100% honest where you're at in your professional journey. Because I know we've heard of this fake until you make it, but as a designer, you will always continue on learning. You will always be in that junior position, and you always want to learn from a very humble position what the company does, what you can actually offer and grow into it. I think that's very important. and you will do great. That's the important thing, is you will do an amazing job no matter which position you apply for. And even if you don't get the job, keep on trying, because there's always a company that is out there that you will be a good fit for.
Yeah, I will say go for it and try as many chances you have. So, I mean, some Latam, they feel like it is an American company. It's going to be tough to start working with them, especially with them, a language barrier and, as you say, culture and everything. But you will say that do we have the same chances to find a job like anybody from any part of the world?
Oh, yes. So here's a one thing that I've seen and I've heard of: many Latin professionals think that they cannot apply because they don't have the English. And I've met many professionals as well that they don't have to have a perfect English or this professional English to even to apply for a job. As long as you are able to communicate slowly and clearly, you will do great. Because even with my coworkers, my Latin coworkers from Ecuador and from Brazil, even Colombian, they don't have the greatest English, some of them that I've known, but as long as they speak slowly and they try to pronounce the words as clearly as they can, people will understand you. Your bosses, your managers, your leaders will understand you. So the best way to, you don't need to really go to courses to learn English. I would always say practice makes perfect, obviously, makes perfection, is to put yourself out there in a professional environment, and you will learn the professional jargons, how to say certain things, and depending on the topic, like stand up, how to communicate which Jira ticket you're working for. I've done this and I've done that, and I moved it into in progress, into done, or in review. It takes practice. Just put yourself out there. They will do great. I'm pretty sure they will. You don't need perfect English, trust me.
Just be yourself.
Just be yourself.
All right. So, how do you overcome these concerns to pursue opportunities with international companies?
Regarding the language of concerns?
Yeah.
Well, what helped me overcome these regarding language, like, I know have a good English, but trust me, my writing skills are not as great. So I try to practice as much with my project manager and my coworkers to convey as much as I can with the little words that I can. So because that was one of my biggest fears, and of not writing it correctly, because people will assume because I speak well, I can write well, and which is not correct. But I'm honest. Like, I tell them, hey, I'm gonna need help with this because honestly, I can't really write this correctly. Grammar, syntax, like, I would love for some help. And the way with speaking, same with presentation. Like, every design review that I have, I will always be nervous. But what helps me is to prepare the notes on the side, like, okay, what I'm going to speak. There's point 1, point 2, point 3, have it there, even though it's kind of obvious that I'm looking on the side. But it helps me keep the conversation going and speak slowly and to not stumble upon your words. So that helped me with my fears on not knowing what to say or speaking around things. You know, I think this is like English and Spanish barrier. If sometimes you think in Spanish, speak in English, and you can't say the word correctly. But I would say that to prep your conversation or your agenda items or topics beforehand to continue with the conversation. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. I make a lot of them while I talk.
And I guess you have a different platform where you can maybe add your words in English, and then I say Grammarly or any other platform that is helping a lot to everybody,
100%.
to developers.
100%. So, of course, Grammarly is one of the top platforms to use. I also love to use DeepL. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's deep with the L capitalized at the end. it's much more accurate in translation rather than Google Translate, so I trust that a lot too. So always good to
Right.
use tools.
Right. So we're giving some ideas. So remote work comes with, I would say, challenges. What are some of the most significant hustle you face?
Well, I would say that remote work is has a lot more perks than challenges, but if I were to pinpoint a challenge, I would say is someone being a blocker to you. What does the word blocker mean? It's when you have a question or you feel stuck at a certain job or a certain task that you're doing and you need someone's help. Sometimes you can't get that answer right away because of what we mentioned before, other time zones, or someone's really busy. So you'll have to write it in the channel of the platform that you're using. In my case, we're using Slack to communicate, or Roam. And you'll have to wait to get that answer that you need to unblock yourself to continue your work. Because we are in a remote space, obviously you can't really go onto someone's door, knock their door, like as if you're in the office, right? That you can approach to someone, and if that one person is not there to answer, you can approach someone else to help you. Unfortunately, it's harder remotely. So I would say that's one of the biggest challenges of having a remote work in different outsourced in different companies and out of Ecuador, let's say, or out of your country, is the time zone and the communication part.
Yeah, exactly. So, example, so if you communicate with in Slack and you have almost your job done, but you have somebody that has to approve that. So until this person approves that job, then you are like, you haven't done anything yet because you have to wait until
Exactly.
somebody approve it.
Well, the other thing, a perk in Slack is if that person is not online because maybe it's 8 p.m. for them and it's 4 p.m. for you, write the question, and there's like the little button, the send button has an option to schedule your message to arrive a certain time in the morning for them. So it'll be like that first thing that arrives and notifies them that, hey, this is my question for you, instead of writing it at night and it might interrupt their evening, or having the message be forgotten because with other messages that are coming in, it might be forgotten in the whole thread. So I use that to my advantage.
Also, don't be annoying. So don't just cry
Oh,
during the night.
oh.
People are
Yes, don't be
sleeping.
annoying. So, okay, so there's a difference between being annoying and having, there's a word for it, but it's to be courteous. So it's like being in a professional environment, like being in the office. You know, you want to knock on the door or ask someone or check their calendar when they're busy, right? Like you don't want to always annoy them because they're also in their focus time. But in Slack is the same way. And this is one of the communication keys I would like to say, is that we as Latin communities, we like to be very, when we use our Spanish words, beautify our words or go around the bush, like, hi, like, hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo va tu día? Oye, tengo una preguntita sobre esto. ¿Te molestaría responder esta pregunta para mí? While in Slack, you know, for an American company in this case, you don't want to go around the bush. You don't want to say, hey, how's your day? And later, like, oh, you know what? I tested you for a question. It's like, no, you want to be more direct. It's like, hey, Daniel, I have a question for you. I need help with this. Do you mind helping me out whenever you have the chance? In one message. Like, you don't want to continue, hey, how's your day? How's this? And wait for their response to ask your question, because it can be a little annoying or disruptive of their workday. So that's like one Slack tip I could give.
That's a good one. I mean, example, as you say, just one message instead of just putting four messages and the person is sleeping. Then it's going to be all the time like clicking. So just one message.
Exactly. It's like you don't want to disrupt their workflow by like, hey, responding to your message every time as if you were on like WhatsApp. It's like, wait, no. You're in a more professional environment. You want to be courteous, but you want to be direct.
So now that we saw the cons, I will say, what are the advantages to work remotely?
Okay, so I love this. I love remote work. So one of the biggest pros I would say is commuting. I don't need to get ready very, very early and commute to my job and spend hours in traffic or spending money in gas. So I love that. I wake up in my time, uh, very, very slowly, prepare myself mentally, physically until I'm prepared to start my workday. So I love that. Also, being a mom for a toddler, it's also beneficial because you're right there with her, and you don't need to be in the same space because I know how complicated and challenging it is to work with a toddler right in your own space. But it's very relieving of knowing that they're safe, they're in your home, everything's okay. If something happens, you're close by. And I love that I don't need to, for example, let's put it out there, she got a bloody nose because she hurt her face, and you're all hours away from work, and to figure out to go there to school and pick her up is challenging. It takes time. But while you're at home, it's easier for you to organize yourself. Go out, let them, hey, I'm going to be out for an hour. I have an emergency, and I'll step out. So I would say those are the perks. Another perk is you're at home. You're comfortable. You are in your personal space where you can snack a lot. I love snacking. I enjoy that very much. You can put your music to blast for focus music. So for example, for me, when I design and I want to be in that creative mode, I listen to a lot of dubstep, which is like a very loud, moving music, or like bachata, whatever gives me the motor running, and I have it on blast because it's my personal space, and those are like what I enjoy the most. Yeah, there's a lot of pros that I can go on, but I know you have more questions.
That's fine. I mean, it is really good. I'm also working 100% remote. I understand what you're saying. So, like, putting your best music, don't feel like I'm shy because I'm putting, as you say, any kind of music, and the person that is in front of me, if I'm in an office, will be like, I don't like that music. But in your case, you are at home, you are by yourself. You can put anything you want.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things another pro I would say is when you're in an office, I'm not sure if this applies to everyone, but in my case is I feel pressured to finish my work in that day. But when I'm at home, I take the time to really think through it, take a break, come back to it, make sure that what I've done really makes sense. If I didn't make an error or anything, it's relieving and refreshing to have that time to focus and also step away from it and come back, rather than in an office you're working on it and you're working on it and you got eyes on behind of your head. I'm not sure if you guys feel that, but when I was in the office, the same pressure, and you want to finish just to finish, but not to finish it correctly, the quality of the work, to make sure you've done a great job.
So you will say that working from home, you have more like creativity. So you have more, you're doing your job, as you say. If you were in an office, you're doing a job, but you're just doing everything to finish quickly. But if you are at home, it's like you have more, I don't know, you have more ideas that bring into it.
Yes, I feel less pressured, I would say, to get it out there or just get it done. As a UI UX designer, I feel like I have more wiggle room to explore more iterations or more ideas, more creative solutions, and I can take the time to do so at a certain, during my day, right? Like, I don't need to work from a 9 to 5. I can adjust my days to the meetings that I need to attend and take some time off and come back to focus work at certain hours that I feel more productive. And so those are like the perks of working at home, and I love it because I feel much more creative, much more productive than being in an office.
So that's good for companies that sometimes they feel like if they are working in an office, the employee is going to be better. But sometimes it's not the other way around. If you are working at home, as you say, you have your time, you walk around for 5 minutes or something like that to bring some ideas. I don't know, you go and play with your daughter, and then you come back, and then you maybe have, from that time that you have like 15 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that, then you are working better, and then you will have in this case, the design on time much better if you were in an office.
Very much, yes. Exactly.
All right. It's good to know, good to know. So I know, Natalie, you love books and comic books. So,
Very.
how do your reading habits influence your design, thinking, and creativity? Any specific recommendation for our audience?
Well, yes, I love comics. I will not lie, especially manga. I will like to express that my biggest hobby is I'm a manga lover and anime lover. Like I even have in my office like little characters that I've got myself.
I do
That I
too.
enjoy very much. I got tons of these. Like yes, exactly. Like I enjoy these. Um,
And that one too.
how? Oh, that's amazing. So comics and manga, especially, how that influenced in my creativity. Okay, so what I can say is I love that comics is a storytelling, right? It's all about the story, all about how to enganchar, like how to hook you on the storyline and how to empathize with most of the characters. Not only it has to be the main lead, the main character, or the female character, the male character. It could be the side characters that you empathize with. And these stories give me a thrill that makes me so, so happy. Like, sometimes I read my comics until 1 in the morning, which is not healthy, by the way. I would not give you that advice to respect your sleep, please. But some of these are very engaging, and you want to provide that same thrill, that same feeling in the storytelling as when you're solving a problem. Because, you know, most of the characters have a problem, right? They come from a very sad and problematic background, and how they solve it through the storyline, and how they achieve happiness and peace or revenge, because some of the stories are revenge. But they have that outcome of feeling realizado, like a realization, right? And so in my creative work, especially in the storytelling, is you want to engage the audience in how you overcame the problem that you initially had and you had to solve for with the end result. You want to tell them the story, the process, but not just, you know, we started with this problem, we gathered the ACs, the functional requirements, we started playing around with the components and have it delivered. No, it's more of we have a problem, we have an actual human being, a person, a user who is going through this problem, and how can we interpret it, translate this problem into an actual solution, and you give that same thrill, that same feeling of I feel like this has been an amazing solution, because from where we at to where we're now, just makes you feel like complete, I would say, as a designer in my chance, but you want to convey that same feeling. So yeah.
That's good. And what would be this a book, comic books, or manga that you want to maybe share with the audience? Anything that you
Oh
feel
gosh,
like
you want a
go
whole
for it.
list?
No,
Just a whole genre.
I don't know. You can bring one, two, or maybe three tops.
Oh, okay. Let me think about this. Okay, so if you want the romantic genre, I would go for True Beauty. Uh, I've been I've been reading this comic since it came out on Webtoons, which is an application that you can go for it. And right now, I'm actually watching the Netflix series because it became a Netflix series. So I'm super stoked with it. It's really fun and very heart-racing. Like, it's very cutesy. I really love K-dramas with that sense. If you want I would say a revenge thriller, I will call it A Teenage Mercenary. I love
Okay.
this one. He was it's about a teenager who was part of a plane crash, but where they crashed, he was raised as a military soldier, and he became a mercenary with that and came back home to protect his family, and goes through these
Okay.
really wild mafia to fight off. They want
Okay.
revenge on him, but it's amazing. It's an amazing thriller. So those are my top two right now of comics of
Okay.
those two genres, and yeah, I mean there's a lot more, but I enjoy those two right now.
All right, people, if you want to see any manga or you want to read any books, just go for the ones that Natalie just told you. All right, so Natalie, it's been a really good conversation. Thanks very much. I really enjoy. I know we can carry on talking, but obviously you have time to commit with your daughter. So I would say if you have something to say to the audience to finish this podcast.
Well, yeah. First of all, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. It's been really fun. I hope what I said really helps out to most of Latin professionals to really step out of your comfort zone. That's very important. And one of the things that I like to say is, don't be afraid. And if you are afraid, embrace being afraid. Because once you embrace being afraid, that is when you start really asking the questions. Okay, if I don't know how this would work, could I ask? Who should I ask? Who could I ask? And what should I ask? Let's say to overcome that fear, to get those answers, and apply. Trust me that most of the job offers that are out there, you don't need to be 100% accurate to the job descriptions or to feel like you need to know a lot more to apply. You should think with a mentality that you are enough for this job description and for this job offer. And yeah, feel confident and believe in yourself, and you will do amazing.
Wow, I'm sure with that message, a lot of people are going to start applying for a lot of jobs.
I hope so.
Maybe
They will do great.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's
we need more Latin outsourced in the States and in Europe.
Yeah, so one is helping that and helping with that. So thank you again, Natalie. I hope to have you for the next podcast if we have another one. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you for your time. It would be amazing to do another podcast. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in and spending a part of your day with us. We appreciate it. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Have questions? Head over to awana.io and ask away.